The open-world crime genre has become much more narrow as of late. After publishers realized they couldn't just clone Grand Theft Auto and make money hand over fist, they've more or less left the genre to its originator. But a few franchises have managed to hang in there by doing something a little bit different. Games like the Saints Row series and the game I'm looking at today, Mafia 2. At first glance, Mafia 2 seems like an utterly shameless GTA clone set in a unique time period. But as you get into the game, you quickly figure out it's not really an open-world game at all. And to be honest, I sort of prefer it this way. So many open worlds are completely unnecessary, filled with useless junk you don't really want to do. Sure, at any point you can go off the beaten path in Mafia 2, do whatever you want, but it isn't filled with worthless side activities you feel weirdly obligated to do. The game is always pointing you at a main objective, a way to progress the story. And weirdly enough, the story is the strongest aspect of this game. As its name might imply, Mafia 2 focuses on the Italian mob in all its glory. Sure, it's a bit generic, and you can see most of the major plot points coming from about a mile away if you've seen any of the films that the game borrows so liberally from, but the game's great characterization and writing managed to both make the boring story beats bearable and the good moments great. However, the game falls flat on its face when you're actually playing it. The game's hand-to-hand combat, which it introduces to you very early on, is overused and kinda terrible, making you tap out combos and land counters in a weak imitation of something like Fight Night. But when the game decides to throw a gun in your hands, it devolves into a cheap Gears of War clone with sluggish aiming and cover mechanics that's even worse. Simply put, it's not fun to play. In fact, the gameplay moments when you're doing things out of the ordinary actually seem a bit more interesting. Shooting up a cafe, then firebombing it adds an interactive aspect to something that would usually just be a cutscene, and that feels great. Another oddly satisfying way in which Mafia 2 excels is in its traffic mechanics. Instead of just shooting you on sight when you bump into another car, cops will pull you over and fine you. Speed limits are enforced as well, to the point where there's actually a dedicated button that you can use to limit your speed so that you don't accidentally accelerate beyond it. Perhaps the best aspect of Mafia 2 has nothing to do with anything gameplay related though. The game does a fantastic job of evoking a time and place, whether it's the snow-covered Christmas of the mid-40s or the sunny optimism of the early 50s. Mafia 2 manages to put you completely in these environments, which is particularly impressive given the fact that the game is more or less equally split between those two time periods. Mafia 2 is one of those games that I want to love so much. The developers have done so much right when it comes to the aesthetic aspects, but it seems like that's where all the effort went, since the game mechanics are mostly poor imitations of far better playing games. Still, if you want a game that can do a great job of inserting you into a time and place, and can look past some pretty major gameplay issues, you could do a whole hell of a lot worse than Mafia 2. Every Friday, I look at a game that was either ignored when it came out, or has been forgotten since. Games that a lot of people have missed. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see the latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button. And if you have any suggestions for game I should look at in the future, be sure to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.